of the habit architect. I had a few posts about this. Florencia, our producer, posted about it as well. We ended season 2, and then I went on a little vacation, which was fabulous. And now we're back and we're starting season 3. And we thought a lot about season 2. We really had some great guests. We had some great topics. It was really engaging. We had more subscribers, people watching the videos, also more people commenting on the live stream, which is what we really like. So we want to keep that going, and we wanted to keep the name going. But we also recognize that we had so many conversations about personal habits, personal time management, personal priority management, that we want to start shifting into the age of AI a bit and how that's impacting both individual and team productivity, what that means to companies, what that means to the individuals involved in those companies, things like that. So the topics are going to shift more towards what's happening in business, and what these same principles that we talk about for ourselves, how they apply to teams, how they apply to companies that are trying to grow, that are trying to do new things, maybe raise money, maybe exit. All of those things are happening, and AI is accelerating that. So we're going to talk about a lot of topics. Today, however, we're going to talk. We've got a customer health expert. He's built a career, a very impressive career, helping companies manage through customer health. And what do I mean by that? It means like churn. It means like customer success, all of those things. And we're going to talk deeply about that, because there's a big movement in the market today, particularly around SaaS companies, and churn is happening big because companies can replace them with an AI native company, or they start doing it themselves. So customer health and customer scores, customer growth, things like that are absolutely essential for especially that mid-market that are trying to thrive in the new AI landscape out there. So we're going to bring Jared Webb on. We're going to talk to him. I do encourage, while we bring Jared on, I'll say he'll introduce himself, but we also are. We want you to subscribe to the podcast. So wherever your favorite player is, Spotify, Apple, whatever. We're proud to have another sponsor on. We have Time Bandit as always as our sponsor. We also have Enterprise Diagnostics. We'll talk about that later. We also are on all the same channels, so you don't have to resubscribe if you already have, but please do encourage a friend to comment, like, all that stuff that makes the podcast go. So thank you very much for that, and welcome to season 3. Good morning, Jared. How are you?
Morning. Good to see you. How's everything going?
Good to see you too. Why don't we start with the background on you, so people know who they're talking to?
Yeah. So I'm Jared Webb. I'm seasoned leader of success teams here in SaaS world, and really with a focus in health tech and fintech. Been doing this now for close to 15 years, and learned a ton about just customer health and how customers behave, and signals and things that we need to be able to be paying attention to. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what struck me when I first met you was on your LinkedIn profile, you had the metrics right at the very top. It's like customer churn, et cetera, GRR, which is a common term in SaaS, and NRR is another one. And you just mentioned it right off the bat, which indicated to me that you know your business, and you've studied it. You're a pupil of the business, and you know what leads companies that way. So that's what really attracted me to your profile as well. I'm glad to have you on the show. I really want to dig in deep to the experience. Tell people where you're from. I'm in Austin today. I'm not in Dallas, but where are you dialing in from?
Yeah, so I'm outside the DC metro area here in Maryland, hailing from my new home. I just moved into my new house a couple weeks ago, and
Nice.
In Montgomery Village, Maryland. So really getting settled in and getting to have a new conversation here. So excited for that.
And you don't have to carry anything on this call. At least no more boxes.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, let's talk about the customer lens first, because I think this is an interesting topic. I've worked for a lot of SaaS companies, software companies, and due to the gray hair, I've seen a lot of iterations of what the latest trend is, and AI is an interesting one, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what's interesting to me is that there's a lot of marketing about what software does and should do, and I think, especially in the executive leadership team, they start to believe their own hype, right? But then there's a group in every organization that deals with that customer that's having either an issue, or they need it to do something differently, or they need a new feature, et cetera. I mean, how is that vantage point different? I mean, because it's not the marketing hype anymore. It's actually in production, and they're using it. What's the biggest challenge with that disconnect? And maybe disconnect's too harsh of a word, but what a customer's feeling and what we thought we were shipping.
I It's a great question. There's tends to be a ton of assumptions taken um, when you're thinking about your customer base, and really like what the biggest thing that I've seen and that I try to bring to light as soon as possible is like, what are we really hearing? What's the real understanding of what customers are actually saying? So things today, like we're very, very fortunate to be able to use tools like Gong, tools like um, that, Teams and anything that records our calls to be able to kind of look back and actually read transcripts now and use AI to summarize them. And really what helps there is you're really getting an understanding of what they're actually talking about. So um, there's a lot of hidden signals. There's a lot of hidden signals for both growth and churn um,
Yeah.
that help to be able to close that customer loop, so to speak, as quickly as
Yeah.
possible, so that the people that are talking to customers every day can get that information to the people that can either code it, or we can take a new approach or have a good strategy discussion with the customer.
Yeah, that is interesting. The systems have changed dramatically since you started your career 15 years ago. Clearly, and those signals are there with what your conversationalist. But just in generally, I mean, how does it seems to me like if you were taking calls from frustrated customers or happy customers that just want more, I mean, how do you not always take their side? You got to walk that line in customer support, I think, because you want to help the customer, but you also, you're a member of the company that produced that work. So, how do you take the customer story forward in the right way that, a product person probably thinks they built the best product. That's just, I mean, and that's good. That's what you want out of product
Mhm.
people, but it doesn't always work out that way. Right.
No, absolutely. I think you're really hitting on something that's a trait that I've had to learn over the course of my entire career, is how to best balance the conversation of, well, we're doing great, but and really you got to fight that with data. There's only way to fight that is with data, because in customer data is usually speaks the strongest. Um, the more customer data, the more trends you're seeing and what the needs are, or the gaps, or the successes. Like an example is you at one of my former companies, we were talking a lot about specific types of features that were, we thought, that weren't really impactful, and ended up being something that we actually put around a whole roadmap feature around, that ended up being a new sellable product. So that's the type of like signals that I'm talking about, is that without the data to be able to show the trend in a couple of the customers, and especially the smaller customers, like everybody tends to know their big customers' needs and wants, right? Like
Sure.
you have a customer that's in your top 80%, you're probably of revenue, you're probably going to know a lot of what's going on there. But your bottom 20% of your revenue is probably telling you signals about new markets that you can go attack and move that bottom 20 into that top 80% now. So, and without, like I said, following trending, following the data of conversations, of emails, of interactions within the software, all important, and being able to tell that story and helping show to product that, hey, that's something that we need, or need to be thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. It's interesting because I think most uh, perceptions are that customer service is kind of a cost center. It's just there to make the customers happy. But what you just described is it's also a big revenue center, because there's renewals involved and there's potential growth signals that you're identifying. That's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. So when a lot about what we talk about on the podcast is building systems or habits and approaches to things. And I think you and I were talking in the pre-show about customer health scores. Can you tell us a little bit about why somebody needs a customer health score,
Mhm.
and then how do you start to assemble that? Because I think if you're a SaaS company and not of a big size, you probably don't have systems that automatically do that for you.
Right. Well, let me start with the problem and why health
Yeah.
scores are important first, and then kind of talk about how to assemble them, right? So, really, the problem that health scores solve is all about visibility, right? It's not only, it basically gives you what we would consider in SaaS or in CS as a 360 of your customer, understanding those signals. And so the frameworks that you develop, they don't always translate from one company to another. The hierarchy and the idea of each of those does translate, But the specific signals, the specific things that you're looking for, all come from whatever companies you're at, history of churn, history of upsell. And so you're looking inside of those triggers, inside of your conversation data, inside of your product usage data for the specific signals and from the history of your customer base of what they've upsold or what they've churned from. And so that's how you end up developing a real health score that's truly meaningful. As early stage companies, so a lot of my experience comes in Series A, B, and C companies. Early stage companies, you're really starting with a more broad perspective, and then it becomes more narrow as you get more data as you grow, right? So it's really important to, when the frameworks that you build might have signals from your value add, your deployment, your engagement, your customer success conversations themselves, but they also might have things like your CSAT scores or your traditional NPS scores. All of that together should make, and you would want to weight them and make them different, but that is really how you make a true health score that's impactful for your business. Yep. And from there, you're able to tell and take action on your risks, your growth opportunities, and to see where your customers are truly just steady or you need to take more attention to.
And so what you described there is you've got a customer health as an aggregate of your entire book of business, and then you've got a health score by account is what I'm hearing. And based on the number of signals, you've got the veracity of that score is higher or lower, of course. But it sounds like you really don't worry about a health score in the heat of things. Your team, your CS team, is doing what they need to do on a daily basis. So the scoring kind of comes downstream from the work, it sounds like, because of what transpired in those interactions. Is that fair to say?
I would say it's a piece of your prep. It's a piece of your renewal. It's stuff it's a signal that you're looking at as you go. It can be a lagging indicator, but it can also be a leading indicator if you're thinking about it in terms of how your action that you're going to, right? So it's supposed to be, what it's truly meant to be is a snapshot of how that customer is doing today, the signals they're giving to you in the moment, based on the most recent communications, and based on the history of the rest of your customer base to help you predict where you're going.
Yeah. And you mentioned Series A, B, and C companies, and some, obviously there's a level of maturity that comes with time and more money. As you raise more money, you can implement more, systems and things like that. But where is and typically, let's say, take a Series A company. I mean, is it all in the CRM system where this data lives, or is it in databases, spreadsheets? How do you start consolidating that mess?
Great question. It really depends on the company, but the majority of the time when you're looking at my experience in the Series A and early B companies, it's usually within people's heads or in their own personal inboxes or within their own personal sheets that are starting to get shared or are starting to have impacts elsewhere. But really, that's the challenge that early stage companies have, is how do you consolidate your data so that everybody can use it? And the earlier you can put those pieces into play, the better information you're going to have later on when you're trying to continue to grow, because you don't want to be fighting yourself to get the data that you probably could have been gathering from the beginning, right? So it's really important to try to link those things earlier and often.
And now it's got to be getting somewhat easier, and not necessarily easy if it's like you said in email boxes or on a spreadsheet, but it's got to be AI's lending itself in workflows and agentic kind of calculations and things. That's got to make it easier. But before AI, how would you come up with a customer score in that scenario you just painted? There's spreadsheets, there's email, there's a CRM like a HubSpot or something like that. How would you physically go create the health score?
Yeah, so from before AI, even with AI, honestly, the first thing you got to do is really understand where you're at. So you have to have tons of conversations with people internally, have individual executive level conversations with your stakeholders at each customer that you can, as many as you can, to understand what truly their value is, so that you're measuring the ROI if people are getting ROI, because that's tends, is today's world value is going to translate into, are you going to renew or are you going to not? That's what people want to know.
Yeah.
I'm getting the value, we're staying. So, but you also need to make sure that you understand the contract data, understand what you're supposed to be delivering, what you're not delivering, what you are delivering. Gather all of those different things together from your support tickets as well, even, and put that all into one aggregate spreadsheet and weight it.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of how I built it back in the past. But today with AI, you can connect a lot of those data places if you have them,
Yep.
or those data lakes if you have them, and then pull it in that manner. But you still have you're still going to have a lot of different places to pull from. So
yeah.
It's important to try to figure out how you're going to get that all aggregated, right? So
yeah, well, it's interesting because you said something there that I think most people don't. I shouldn't assume, but I wouldn't. When I traditionally think of customer service, you think of somebody that's just helping you work the technology, right? And so people call in because feature A is not working, so your CS team is helping them with that. But you said that what really matters if they're going to renew is, are they getting the value they were promised, right? And that's a different thing altogether, because somebody that's just having trouble turning it on versus are they willing to pay you again for what they got because it delivered value, that's a harder measurement, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way that the industries are all shifting, right? And so your AI native companies are all about value. You're about volume. Are you getting the value? Traditional SaaS company, you're looking at like seats or usage data, right? Just like, are you putting enough people in the software? So when you're looking at your CRM, for example, like 10 seats equals this much. Well, AI is changing that. I mean, so even if you have a traditional SaaS model, you have to start thinking about, when you're a CSM, when you're a CS leader, when you're a post-sales leader at all, are you delivering the value that they came here for? And how are you showing that value? You really need to be a true integrated piece into someone's data, into someone's tech stack. Because everybody's trying to vie for your business to use my tech, but you have to make sure that you're relaying that value in the right way to keep that customer knowing that you are extremely irreplaceable. So
yeah, that's a great point. And it's interesting because I was thinking while you were talking that there is a lot of self-bias in the conversations around customer health, I would think, because one of the last software companies I worked for, they had a relationship management team, which was essentially kind of CS in the field. And then they had a sales team, which was looking for new opportunities of growth and things like that. And I vividly remember many of the quarterly business reviews and things like that. There were a lot of words like, "Oh, they love us. They think the world of us. We have great relationships. We went to dinner," things like that. And all that's good, right? But they love us isn't really a metric, right? It's a feeling. So how did you manage through that when you're in a room with your other executives and you're trying to think about your business and the health of that business, and you're there to advocate for the customer? How do you talk through those kinds of things to make sure that you're doing the right delivery, right?
It's a phenomenal question. It's something that has to get tuned at every place you go. I think that everyone's looking for a little bit of different things, and your audience is a little different. But when I'm talking to other executives and trying to make sure that people understand, like, I need a feature to keep a customer, or I need a feature to be able to have opportunity to sell, like I turn back to the data. I say, it's not just this customer. I see this customer, these 5 other customers might have an opportunity here, and that's equating to a certain amount of revenue. If it's a new product or a new feature, you're saying, hey, these customers are equate to this market share, and there might be opportunity here for us to be able to make something new and really take something out to market that's different and could be a separator. So the number one thing that I always kind of come back to, right, and I've come back to a few times now, is being visible into the data, seeing the trends in the data, and being able to argue it based on what people and your customer base is truly saying, and not just using feeling. using feeling is part of that score and part of the things that we're looking for, but it's not all. And if you're relying only on feeling for your customer health, I can promise you that you're probably missing a lot of key signals that could equate to lost opportunities or worse, churn. And that's something that we want to avoid at all costs. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that churn number is rising for SaaS companies. I mean, it just is. And then, from my experience being part of some exits and things like that, you have to have a real defensible customer health story, because if churn's coming out the back end, your ARR is dropping. Unless you're really selling on the top line, you really can't hide those numbers. I mean, do you have any stories or interesting anecdotes about that account that got lost and it was just too late? I mean, it just seems like that happens more than anything. The customer has made a decision, and you're learning about it well after they made the decision.
Yeah, many times. I mean, there's a customer at one of my previous companies that we've been working on deployment for and one of their new pieces of software for, I don't know, 6-7 months, and things have been going well. We met every week. We were, the attitude in the room was great. Open conversations every week. I was able to call that customer at whatever time of the day. Ended up churning because we didn't have the signals and the right they really needed in that time frame. They were trying to move forward with some pieces in their business. We weren't able to get the piece that we thought that they really needed. We thought it was only a sliver of what we actually needed to do. So really important for us to be able to see those trends and to read those signals better. And that's something that we had to learn, unfortunately. So
yeah. So and by the way, Nora on LinkedIn said season 3, great. It's great to be here. That's awesome. Thank you, Nora. Let's talk about AI and what that does now. I mean, I know you're collaborating on a product that would help CS leaders, help really SaaS leaders, the entire executive team. Where do you see AI being the biggest opportunity in this kind of area that we're talking about, from health scoring to customer service in general? Maybe think about some of the mid-sized SaaS companies that you've worked with that maybe don't have those big investments in big CS platforms. And a lot of people think AI in CS is just a chatbot, but I think there's more to it than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. AI has been talked about a ton in SaaS right now. Actually, there's every CS group I'm in right now, someone's trying to figure out the best ways to deploy their agents, the best ways to deploy their internal team, and understanding how to get people to learn and use it. And I'm of the thought process that AI could be used in almost every piece of CS to be able to enhance and give people more bandwidth. Things like QBR prep, things like handoffs, call summaries is pretty standard, right? But like all of those different things can actually go ahead and combine into a health score, and that's really valuable, of being able to pull the health score quickly, get those connectors in quicker than ever before, and create a health score and one that you can move with and grow with very quickly. So I think that those are some really big areas. And then what that does is it'll allow for the CS team take that information and have conversations with their current customers to see where opportunity lies and where risks are, and take out the, I've heard some people preparing for a QBR for 2 or 3 days straight. Like that could be cut down to 3 hours maybe, with AI. And that's critical time that people can get in front of people and bring back the human part of what we're doing, and build that relationship and allow us to have the true conversations around the uses of products and things that we can help solve. So
yeah, that's fascinating. I just connected a dot. So if you saw me blink, it was probably my brain churning back on. But I had lunch yesterday with a lady that and her business is helping executive teams manage board expectations and board meetings. And one of the things she does is she says, don't go to a meeting that you don't already know what you're talking about, and so does the
Mhm.
other people. So this is you can actually change the dynamic of a QBR where you're not just coming in and talking about in general, here's our business, but you're talking about very specific things. If the executives can see that health score that you're going to talk about, you can actually talk about what are the recommendations to take action versus the history lesson, right? And I think that's a fundamental change. You're
Absolutely.
saving time on the prep and you're saving time in the meeting. You're actually more productive in the meeting. What do you need to get done in that meeting? Not just, like I said, play back the history. So that's a huge
Mhm.
thing. I
Absolutely.
hadn't connected that. Yeah. Yeah. What a different at QBR
Yeah.
that is, right?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
and frankly, that's exactly. And that's where the true value is for the CS world right now. I think that the leaders that are going to be able to leverage AI in the way that allows them to do the thing that they are best at. You're seeing a lot of companies go to things like forward deployed engineers or possibly it's even
Yeah.
getting rid of CS teams altogether. And the thing that CS teams do really well is, or should be doing really well, is helping identify and reading the room in ways that an engineer couldn't, and helping find that opportunity and building that executive relationship that would carry on from the pre-sale. So
Yeah.
I think that's as a CS leader, my teams and my people and people that I mentor with to be able to remember that's a lot where a lot of the value is, but also to fine tune your technical chops, because if you can leverage.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. By the way, there's a little shakeup. It could be my Wi-Fi here in the hotel, but you kind of broke up there a little bit. But we'll just to mention that. I don't know if it's me or you or somebody else, but we're back on now. I can see you clearly now. Yeah, so that's fascinating. I love that concept because there are a lot of the conversations that can change and I'm thinking historically. I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud here, but it's CS always seemed to be the other thing when I was thinking about growth of the company. We weren't literally thinking about the CS team being a lead generation tool, but it certainly can now because the data's there, and it's just a matter of getting the connections to the signals that say, "Hey, we can grow this account if we act quickly, or we can save this account if we do certain things." A lot of people, I think, at a fault, don't think of it that way. But what you're describing, it's part of a vital part of the team. So hopefully you can hear.
Am I?
Hopefully
Is it me?
we can still see you and hear
Oh,
you.
still me? Still got me? Okay, great. Sorry about that.
No worries. No
Might be
worries.
my
Well,
new
let's
house
talk.
internet.
Yeah, it could be this hotel internet. I don't know how it all affects, but let's talk about the storytelling stuff because I think that's that's an important part. So a CS leader could have been promoted because they were really good at their job. They could come in from the outside, helping a CS team mature and grow. But what is the responsibility and the ownership of telling that customer story? I mean, do you have any tips for people that are saying, "Hey, here's what I'm seeing in the customer signals. I need to convey that to the company." Do you have any tips on how they position those either weaknesses or strengths and just the overall customer story?
Nope. Sorry, Cups. Can you repeat the
Can you?
question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. You are back now. So the storytelling aspect of it, CS leaders that maybe have been promoted, they hadn't been in a leadership position, or they're coming in new. Do you have any tips for how people can tell at the aggregate what's this customer success story, and then individually, if there's some advice you have for people?
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm trying to check my internet here. I think it might be me. I'm not sure.
It may be Florencia in the background.
My back.
Are you seeing the same issues? You're back. You're back.
Okay.
So let me see if I can chat through the question here.
All right.
So Jared, there's the question is in the chat if you can see it. I don't know if you got that or not, but we can see and hear you. I think you just can't hear me. All right. So Florencia, I think we probably have a bad connection. Maybe we
Yep.
should. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, so I guess if the question's around like how do I tell the story to other executives, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think the story that I tell around customer health and what's been going on and how to best utilize AI and utilize things for us in customer signals is really around like opening up visibility, opening up the understanding of our customers, because we can only talk to so many people. You only have 4 CSMs maybe on a team, and so with that little of people on your team, you're not going to be able to talk to all your customers every day like you want to, especially if your software is something that they interact with every single day. How are you going to get the true feedback of how they're utilizing, where they're going every day if you don't utilize some type of AI or some type of form of work to help understand those quiet signals that they're giving you when they're in the software, when they're using, and understanding where they're going and where they might be leading to. I think that's so important to be able to gather the data. And then I tell the story using just repeating what my data tells me, what people are doing, and then I make sure that story is aligned with where I want to go, or if it's not where we think we need to go, or where we have to go, like maybe I have to do some rethinking and retooling, and then come back and say, look, this is what my data is telling me, and I see that we need to be attacking more of this mid-market, for example. The mid-market in our company makes up 5-10% of our new target area, and maybe that is something we need to take a look at, or hey, maybe it's not something that's so important that we might have thought was important because it's only such a small number. Depending on the movement and how things are going there. Like that's how I would read it and look through it and kind of represent that back to the executives.
Yeah. And let's take a hard conversation that hopefully you can hear me again. Let's take a hard conversation. Maybe it's time to fire a customer because they're not profitable, or they're not, they're churning through your CS teams. Maybe they're, for any number of reasons, when you spot a customer that says, hey, this is not the kind of customer we need to, because it's a distraction to our broader mission. How do you handle that discussion?
Those are much harder.
Yeah.
The ones that you want to, there's a metric that I use that I think CS teams need help on getting, but really can at least start the conversation. It's all around cost to serve. And if your cost to serve is way higher than what you're looking at, you really need to understand, is that customer really worth it? Are they a key customer that's in the market that you need to keep them around? Or are they a customer that is just taking up a ton of time? Very often what I've seen is that the earlier customers tend to have had a different perspective on how and what they could get at whatever time. And those are the more difficult customers, either the smaller, especially the smaller ones at that time, because they take up a lot of time, but they don't take up a ton of your ARR and NRR books. So as you grow, those customers with the smaller numbers tend to get less time. And so it's actually a great place to be able to leverage your AI in any agents that you're using to be able to give them the touch level and the need from your team that they could get to be able to help save them. And then where it's needed, you can put in a human in the loop to be able to go attack that and help them out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for that. The cost to serve is a good metric. So if you were going to give somebody advice, they're out there and they're managing a CS team of let's say a Series B company, which is getting some scale, getting some, you've got some revenue coming in. Where would you start today? If you say, if they just feel overwhelmed, they've got, some level of systems and not, where would you say to start?
very first place is you've got to start with those conversations and the data around what customers are saying about you. I mean, um, start taking it piece by piece. You start with the easiest place where you have the most data available, which tends to be tickets. Um, how are tickets trending from your top segmented customers all the way down to your lowest segmented customers? Do that same exercise with your conversation data if you have it. If you don't have it, have very intentional conversations with your team that's been on the ground talking to the team, or talking to the customers, excuse me, and understand and gather that data, aggregate that data as best as you can. And then you will likely start to see trends. You'll start to see that a specific type of issue is popping up that's causing pain for a larger segment of customers. You might see that there's people are asking for certain things that you might not have seen before, and you might didn't even know was there or was an opportunity. So once you start getting into a couple of different segments of conversation data and interaction data, you're going to start to see trends. That's where I would start, because like I said earlier, the customer's voice speaks the loudest, and it's our job as CS leaders to be able to translate those needs of the customer back to our business and to help either the customers, help ourselves, and ultimately really help both of us kind of grow together.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And by the way, we got Jared's LinkedIn crawling on the screen. If you want to reach out to Jared, I know he's open to talking to other CS leaders and team members, et cetera. So check him there. So Jared, we in the previous seasons of the Habit Architect, I always ask about personal habits, but now we're going to change up the question a little bit. So you're the first to have to answer this question. But if you were to hand something off, personally or professionally, to AI, that is always on your to-do list, always on, that's something that's always there, what's the number one thing that you've either handed off or plan to?
Oh, the number one thing I'm working on handing off is all of the handoffs, to be honest with you, in between teams. I think that a lot of things get missed I'm going to use the sales handoff to implementation and to go live. But there's a lot of things that get missed in those conversations that the sales team has, and that kind of come over to us. And I think it's important that as a customer, you have a continuity of service from all the way from pre-sale into sale, because the most excited you're going to be in the most crucial time of any relationship is that first 90 days after you signed the contract. And so the less repeating we have to do about value add, about things that you were looking for, and the more that we can have informed discussions right off the bat, the better the relationship will be from the start.
That's fantastic. That's a good observation. Thank you for that. That is true. That is true. You can fail in those first 90 days, or you can overwhelmingly gain a customer for life, so to speak. So awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Good conversation. Sorry we had the Wi-Fi problem, but that's not the end of the world. We can clean it up on post, and that way for people that want to catch the full version again. Congrats on the new house too. That's a big evolution as well. So hopefully that's going well. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on CS, and really, what I'm excited about is what the possibility of agentic workflows can do, and all of those things that you talked about. So look forward to circling back with you soon on that and see what kind of progress you've made with the AI stuff and the handoffs.
Absolutely. I'm really excited, and thank you for having me. It's been a great time.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. And for everybody else, we'll be back next Thursday as well. Do check us out on your favorite podcast channel, like, share, all that stuff that we ask you to do. And do stay in touch and let us know if you've got other guests that you would like us to interview. People personally that you would suggest, or you want to join us as well. If you've got an interesting topic, then please do DM myself or Florencia. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks, everybody, and have a great